Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Brenden Kumarasamy, communication coach, YouTuber, and he's the founder of MasterTalk, and he coaches ambitious executives and entrepreneurs to become top 1% communicators in their industry. Welcome to Brenden.
Kaj, the pleasure is absolutely mine. Thanks for having me on the show.
Great. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India. And we'll be talking what you talk is very important, very normal, but communication is a very important tool. And that is what, endears to people, and that what creates unpleasant situations and everything. But let me ask you, before I come to the communication, let me ask you about what you do in a different manner and about the good work that you do. Brenden, you say that your belief is that the next Elon Musk is a 7-year-old girl who can't afford a communication coach, so it's my duty to help her succeed with my free resources. You do this free coaching several times, 90-minute training, several times during your month or so. Why do you do so much of free work when you can earn so much of money? Why do you do that? I wanted to understand the human side of Brenden Kumarasamy.
For sure, Kaj. I appreciate the question. And you know where I would start with, I definitely do make money. I definitely earn a living for sure. But an important piece of my work is the fact that most people can't really afford a communication coach because they run people thousands of dollars if you hire somebody in America, especially, or in Canada where I'm from. And for me, Kaj, MasterTalk never really started as a business. It accidentally became one, right? Because when I was in business school, I studied in accounting, funny enough. It's like the opposite of what I do today. And then while I was studying that degree, I did these things called case competitions. Think of it like professional sports, but for nerds. So while other guys my age were playing cricket or rugby or football, I wasn't really one of those guys. I did presentations competitively. And then as I got older, I started coaching all the other students. But then I realized, Kaj, that nobody was really sharing free information on how to speak for students or for people who couldn't really afford a coach. That's how I started Master Talk, and I just started making videos for fun. And then a few years later, I got really lucky. I found the right partners in business, and I realized that I could build a coaching business that allows me to do this 100% of the time instead of working my day job.
Right. And now, as a founder of MasterTalk, you hold the intellectual property for this particular name, doing great stuff for a lot of people. And that is why we'll be talking about using your expertise to understand, because it's a business show and a lot of business people listen to, especially small businesses, freelancers, a lot of, people in different corners of the world who have their small shops and all. Everybody wants to make more sales. And that is where we'll use your expertise to understand how one can use communication to generate more sales. How do we do that? How is communication related to this? People generally do talk to their customers when they come into their stores, how about they coordinate with their clients, with whoever it is. And so, but when you talk about this sort of communication, how does that come into the type of businesses one do? And how does it help in sales? Over to you, several things at the same time, but so that you can answer them all at your own pace.
Absolutely, Kaj. Fantastic list of questions. So let's get started with this. How is communication related to sales? Really simple. The way that we deliver an offer, the way that we sell a product or service, is only one part of the equation. The other part of it, which is just as important, is what does the prospect think of you? What is their perception of you? So, for example, if I say, hey, I'm really excited today, Kosh, to present my communication coaching offer. You look at me as a prospect, you go, this guy doesn't look excited at all. He's not smiling. He's not warm. He's not asking me how I'm doing. I don't feel really good in this room with him. So it's communication is not just about, or rather sales is not just about explaining what you do and how you help people. It's also about making the prospect feel that you're the right person to buy from. So that's the main thesis. Now the next part becomes, what are some easy tricks that we can do to work on this every single day? So for me, Kaj, communication is like juggling 18 balls at the same time, right? One of those balls is body language, one of them storytelling, one's facial expressions, one of them is eye contact. It can get really confusing really fast. So for me, the question has always been, what are the three easiest balls to juggle in the air? So I'll start with one, so I'm not monologuing for too long. I'll jump it back to you. But the first one is called the question drill. We get asked questions all the time in our life, Kaj, from prospects, right? On the phone, from our clients, from a podcast, from work, from family. But most of us, my friend, are reactive to those questions. We're not proactive to them. So I'll give you an example with me. Like a few years ago, when I started coaching people, not coaching people, when I started guesting on podcasts, I remember some guy asked me, where does the fear of communication come from? And I looked at him and I was like, I don't know, man. New Delhi? Like, maybe it's Andhra Pradesh. I don't know. Red London? I don't know where the fear of communication comes from. So I didn't answer the question well. So what I do every single day, Kaj, for 5 minutes, just answer one question that you think your prospects will ask you about your products or services. And if you do that every day for a year, you'll have answered 365 questions.
Right, right. You have appeared on over 500 podcasts. Now you are ready to go live, on any podcast with anybody across the world with any podcast host. How did you develop this skill? You said you accidentally developed a skill in helping others communicate effectively. What about you? How did you know that this is something you have in you, and then you can help others achieve this particular thing?
For sure, Akash, such a great question. For me, I believe honestly that all of us have a gift. All of us are special because there's only going to be one version of us for the rest of human history. There's only ever going to be one Brendan. There's only going to be ever one Kaj. There's only ever going to be one person who's sitting in this audience today, who's listening to this show. And because of that, I don't think we can all be good at everything. Like Brendan is not going to be a cricket player. Brendan's not going to play professional sports and get paid to do it, right. I have a broken left arm. That's crooked. Like I'm not going to play. I can play sports, but I can't play it at a pro
When
level.
did this happen?
At birth, at birth.
Okay.
So I was born upside down, and then when they pulled me out of a vacuum, my left shoulder dislocated. So I had multiple surgeries when I was younger. And I can still move it now. It's fine now. But I think the point is that all of us have gifts. Like for me, I'm bad at most things, but there's three things that I'm really, really good at. And that's coaching clients how to communicate ideas, right? The second thing is giving a workshop on communication in a workshop setting on a keynote. And the third thing is guesting on podcasts. Everything else I'm average. I don't know how to cook. I don't know how to clean. I don't know how to do a bunch of things in life. But those three things I'm really, really good at. In the same way, by the way, I believe everyone listening to this podcast is really, really good at two to three things. It's just those things are going to be different. Like for Kobe Bryant, it was basketball. For you, it's interviewing guests. For somebody else, it's cooking, right? You just got to find your thing and do it.
Right, right. And if you are good at even one thing, it can earn you your livelihood, your bread, butter, and everything else that you need. And for a lot of people, their whatever they do, especially in terms of business, coaching, their bread and butter is what they do. And that can happen if there are more sales, better sales, high ticket sales, and that is where you come in. How do you do that? Initially, you said you would have answered all these questions, even if you just think about one question that any of your prospects, your clients may ask you about your product or service. Is that all? Is that how you do that? Is that because you talk about public speaking, you talk about communication. How do you communicate? A lot of communication nowadays happens online, offline, and online, offline at the same time. Also on the phone, so how and you talk to different people, especially when you are doing online business, different cultures. and people who are in different moods. Because if a customer is in front of you, you at least can gauge what type of mood the customer is in. But online, offline, different time zones, you just don't know. How do you communicate effectively so that you can make not only sales, repeat sales, and continue to have long-term customers in whatever you do? Help us
Absolutely.
understand all the expertise that you have got.
For sure, Kaj. I just didn't want to go to all the tips, or else I would just talk alone for 15 minutes and you wouldn't get a chance to talk. That's why. So let's take it one thing at a time. So the first one is definitely the question drill, right? So let's recap that. You don't have to always invent the questions. What you can do as well is all of us listening to this who do sales had prospect calls last week or in the last month. Just write down all of those questions that the prospect asked you and say, if I had a second shot at this question, if I could answer it again, how could I answer it better? So the reason I got better on podcasts is not because I'm special. It's not because I'm unique. It's because I was just willing to re-listen to so many of these episodes, Kaj, until I had the perfect answer. Today I didn't give the perfect answer to Kaj. How can I do this better next time? So I'm always asking myself that, and a lot of us don't do that legwork. So that's one. The second one is an exercise I teach called the random word exercise, Kosh. So you pick a random word like phone, like light bulb, like home, like family, and you create random presentations out of thin air. What is the purpose of that? The purpose is twofold. One is if you can make sense out of nonsense, you could make sense out of anything. Like if you could talk about tissue papers or nuts or laptops for 60 seconds, you're selling the same product every single day. If you're doing the sales process correctly, you're only selling one product to the same avatar 100 different times. So because it's the same product, well, it's really easy. It's the product isn't changing. So if you can do what's harder, which is tissue box for 60 seconds, you could do anything. The second purpose, Kaj, is it helps you deal with uncertainty. Life is filled with uncertainty. So many of us, I'm sure, and I definitely am here, where you've had conversations with prospects that were really weird. Like you get on a call with the sales prospect and you ask them how their day is, and they look at you and go, "Oh, Kaj, my wife left me last week," and you're like, "What the hell? What's going on here?" Like sometimes in prospecting calls, I find myself giving the prospect a therapy session for 25 minutes. And they start crying. I've had prospects who start crying, and not because I did anything wrong. They just go, "Oh my God, I had such a bad day." So if you could talk about avocados, you can deal with those because that's how you improve your conversions or at least your reputation. And that's number two. Number three, Kaj, we know the exercise, but the question we need to ask ourselves is not, do I know this? The question is, am I implementing this? And of course, it's video messages. One thing I do that's unique to me that people can take, because for me, the quote is, if you communicate 20% better than your competition, you will stand out 100% of the time. So I'll give you an example of what that looks like for me. I have a CRM in my Google Calendar that tells my top 100 clients, my top 100 fans, it tells me when it's their birthday. So literally on their birthday, what I do is I take out my phone. I don't worry about whether the video is good. I put a birthday hat on that I spent $10 on Amazon for. I open my camera and I go, "Hey, Kaj, guess whose birthday it is? It's yours. I just wanted to wish you a happy, happy birthday." It sounds really stupid, but my clients love it and I always get more business from it. And people don't do that.
Okay. Okay. So you got to engage with the customer or wherever or client, whoever or wherever the client is. Is that what should understand? But then how do you communicate? One is that you have recorded a message. One is that you have answered the questions. In day-to-day communication, the sales process is a bit, you can say, there are people who want to buy, but they will not make it very easy for the salesperson. What is the type of communication that they should keep on? For example, you talk to a lot of people who want to get into public speaking. Now that's a different area than a sales communication. how how do you tell them exactly what should be the way they communicate? In a sales situation, it's a different sort of a communication. So what are the things that a salesperson or a small store should keep in mind when dealing with prospects or repeat clients? How should they deal? They know they all continue to do it. How should they communicate better through you?
Absolutely, Kaj. So there's two parts to that, right? One part of that, my friend, is with new customers, prospects, and the other part is with new repeat buyers, people we already have a relationship with. So the way that we deal with those conversations is very different. So for example, the person who is the new customer, we need to understand first, why do people buy things in general? The reason people buy things, Kaj, is for two reasons psychologically. One is to embrace pain, to run away from pain. Like, oh my God, this is really pain. So I need to buy something to relieve this pain, or to run towards pleasure. So we're either running away from pain or running towards pleasure. So for me, in my case, unfortunately, most people who hire me, it's because they want to run away from pain. Like they're not speaking up in the boardroom, they're losing opportunities, they feel that pain, and they go, I want to solve that pain, and I don't want to sit there for 5 years and not do it. So I'm going to hire Brenden. Some of them will buy for pleasure. I'm already a great speaker, but I want to be the best in the world. That's my dream. So it's pleasure, but most it's going to be pain. So how do we then structure the call in a way that helps us to create that pain point, especially in coaching? So for me, it starts with the first question, which is, what are the challenges that you have right now with your communication skills? And you just listen. And if the person goes, I don't have any challenges, there's nothing to sell them. Like if they don't have any challenges, Kosh, then you have to ask them differently. Like, why are you on this call then? Like, why are you talking
Okay,
to me? Why do you need to
right, right.
so you need to dig into the pain. That's the first thing. The second thing you want to dig into is how long they've had the pain for. And a lot of the people I've worked with, they have it for 20 years, 15 years. So you understand how long they've been doing. You're just listening, right? 80% of the time. Then the next part is going, what's your vision? Like, where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years? They go, I want to be a vice president. I want to be a senior vice president, things like that. And then after you set the frame, then what you do is you start giving them advice. You go, okay, based on what you told me, here's what I'd recommend. Do this exercise, do this, do this. And then at the end, you just mentioned indirectly that, hey, by the way, that you could do this all on your own. But you've struggled 20 years with this, like you told me. So what you want to do is you want to hire a coach to speed up the results if you can afford one. And then I let the prospect go, I think you're right. Tell me more about the program. And then you go for the close and you tell them what the offer is. And then the last piece is just objection handling. So whether it's a price objection, a time objection, you go through their objection, you kind of help them through to help them make a decision that's best for them. And that's kind of the long-winded answer to how to master sales.
Okay, okay, Brendan. Now let's look at communication and public speaking. Both are communicating, but one is the sales part. You are talking to in a different setting, two people, three people coming to your store or writing online. But public speaking is different. There also a lot of coaches are there. How do they communicate that one is the part of their public speaking and then there is the sales part? How do you communicate there to be able to make better sales? How do you do that? A lot of time now most of the people are into presentation. It's more of a presentation setting. The normal communication is much more on a store setting or online, offline, whatever it is. How do you uh, work your way around in these two settings?
For sure, Kaj. So there's two parts to that. One is the conversation, one is the presentation. So the other piece that I forgot to mention is, what do you do with existing clients? For existing clients, people who already bought from you, in theory, they should love you because your delivery should be really good. If they hate you, it means your product's bad, which is a different conversation. But for them, it's more about building relationships with them, going deeper. So, for example, when I'm in New York City, I have lunch with my clients. Like all my clients who live there, I just have dinner with them. I go talk to them whenever I can, just to build a relationship. So I go out to tea. I go to my client's house and I have tea with them, and they really like seeing me, right? So we're friends. That's the idea. You got to build that deeper relationship. That's why they want to bring you more customers. That's the number one priority, is building that relationship, that friendship with them. So that's that other piece, right? It's really helping them throughout that journey. In terms of presentations, Kosh, here's what I would say. The good news is that in sales, you only have to present the same presentation over and over again. Because in theory, you're selling the same product. Like I only sell one product in my business, right? It's the same product over and over and over again. So what you want to do is when you're presenting, there's a strategy I teach called the jigsaw puzzle. So jigsaw puzzles are kind of like those toys you used to play as kids, right? You have like 1,000 pieces, you put them all together. So if you work on a jigsaw puzzle, the pieces you want to start with are often the edges because they're easier to find in the box. Or you pull them in the box, you put the edges, you work your into the middle. But in communication, unfortunately, Kaj, we start with the middle. We shove a bunch of content, we get to the presentation, the sales pitch, we get to the last slide, and it sounds something like this. Uh, yeah. So thanks. Not the right approach. So instead, what you want to do is start with the edges first. The next sales presentation you have, present just the introduction 20 times. 20 times seems like a lot, but it's really not. It only takes you 45 minutes because your intro's 2 minutes. Same thing for the conclusion. What's a great movie with a terrible ending? Terrible movie. Same thing with the conclusion. Then tackle the middle. And if you do it like that, your sales conversions will go up for sure.
Okay, okay. And how do I know whether my, say, conversation or presentation have gone well? Every
Absolutely.
time there will not be a sale, but it has to be a good conversation or good presentation. How do I know?
Right. So for me, Kaj, it's a great question. For me, it's all a bit about outcomes. What is the outcome of the conversation or the sales part? Like, for example, the outcome for me today is just to inspire people to know that they can communicate better. And for me at the end is like, did I achieve that outcome? Did I make it so easy for people to think, okay, I could do the random word exercise in my shower. I could do the question drill at home. This is not hard. I can send a video message to my friends. Like, it's not challenging. So it always depends on what your goal is. So for me, communication is all about saying, am I achieving a specific outcome for a specific audience? So if we're achieving that outcome, the conversation is successful. Like if your goal is really sales and like a client presentation and you don't hit your quota, you need to go back to the drawing board and say, what did I miss here? And that's what keeps us accountable to success.
Okay, okay. Let's look at a different setting: leadership communication. A lot of either political leaders, but we'll not go into politics, but in businesses, a lot of communication happens. But if we understand, with in spite of so many tools available, the trust between the people who they are communicating with or to, that has diminished. Why is it so? What is it that they are lacking? What is it that they can learn from you now? And what is it that they can learn from any book or anything that you can recommend? Is it a step by step? Are there specific tools? How can they do that so that they can develop that trust in all sort of communication, but in leadership, because it impacts a huge number of people at the same time?
Absolutely, Kosh. So for me, communication is like juggling 18 balls at the same time, right? So one of those balls is eye contact, one of those balls is vocal tones. So for me, it's all about take it one ball at a time. So for me, for everyone listening to this, is like, have you booked 15 minutes in your calendar every single day? Every single day to do the random word exercise with your kids, with your family, with yourself, to do the question drill once a day, to do the video messages. I've coached C-level executives, SVPs, Kaj, and none of them do all three of these things consistently. Just doing that will accelerate your communication skills. But the problem, Kaj, is most people don't do it. They listen to us speak and they go, wow, these guys are so good at speaking. Look at Kaj, he has so much energy. But they don't go, oh, I need to practice. Because the best way to speak is to speak. So do that. And then as you get better, as you do these exercises, then you go to the next parts of leadership communication, which is more complex. So you need to start the easy balls first. Like, how do you give effective feedback, which is write, rank, deliver? Write the right feedback. Start with the easy wins, that's rank. And then deliver means deliver it in a way based on the personality of the person you're speaking with. And that's really the key.
And if I'm an introvert, what should be my strategy?
Absolutely, Kosh. By the way, I need to drop in 60 seconds. Just letting you know. So for the introverts, my advice would be double down on your strengths. 80% of the people I work with, Kosh, are introverts. Like, it's not that it's a bad thing. It's more about understand your strengths. So for example, introverts are better at pausing. Introverts are better at listening. Introverts are more accessible. Like Gary Vaynerchuk, when he talks, I love the guy. But when he talks, not many people like him because he's really loud. But nobody says that about Brene Brown. Everybody loves Brene Brown. And that's really the idea. Double down on your
Right,
strengths.
right. And since you have to go, obviously people need to learn more from you rather than only on this podcast. So how do people connect with you?
Absolutely, Kash. It was such a pleasure to be on your show. Thanks for having me, man. I'm glad we finally made it work. So two ways to keep in touch. The first one is definitely the YouTube channel. Just go to Master Talk in one word. You have everything you need for free. And the second way to keep in touch, to your point, I do a free workshop every few weeks. Everyone's invited to it. It's a free Zoom call. I just coach people for 90 minutes. Everyone comes to it. 8-year-old kids are on that workshop. CEOs of massive companies are on that workshop. Everyone's there. So if you want to go there, just go to rockstarcommunicator.com and just sign up for the next training.
Wonderful, wonderful. On this note, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.